Hello, my name is Tom Palmer, and I am a children's author, and I'm the author of the Twickenham Trials, which I know some of you schools have been reading during the Rugby World Cup. And I've had a load of questions from schools, and what I'm going to do is, because about 50 schools have been in touch, I'm going to try and get through one question from each school to make sure that every school is represented. And I'm really sorry if I miss you out, but hopefully I'll include every school that's got in touch. I'm going to try and do it quite quickly so that it takes no more than 15 minutes. I hope that's okay. So here goes anyway. And first of all, thank you very much for asking questions. They were really good questions, and it was really lovely to get the range of things you wanted to know about and that you'd engaged with the story. But I've used up a minute already, so I better get going. Right. Chewton Mendip School, who I'll be coming to see soon because I'll be visiting you next year. Why did you choose the names Rose, Rory, Owen and Woody? Woody was sort of based on Clive Woodward, who was the England coach when England won the Rugby World Cup. It's kind of based on his story, because Woody, these are the characters. That's Woody, that's Owen, and that's, oh no it isn't, that's Rory, sorry, and that's Owen, and they're based on, they're the characters that are from these three books, so they came straight from the book. And Rose I chose because Rose was meant to be like the English rose on the England shirt, but whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we've yet to find out. Anyway, good question. Pembroke School, are you going to add more characters? I think I am. I think a character will emerge who you may have seen a little glimpse of today or maybe tomorrow. A new character is going to come into it, but I'll come to that in a minute. So good school. St Wilfrid School in Longridge. We've noticed a few missing words and incorrect punctuation. Why don't you edit your writing more carefully? That is a really good question. When I write my books, what I do is I write them, then I leave them for a few weeks, and then I go back to them and check them and correct them and make them good. And I've also got an editor who edits them. That's puffing books in the case of this this series. With the Twickenham Trials, I'm doing it late at night, and I'm sorry, certainly a few spelling mistakes I've got through because I didn't check it properly. I should have read it through again. And punctuation, I'm a bit freer with punctuation than perhaps I was taught in school, but I like to mess about with punctuation to make short sentences and stuff like that, but that probably sounds like more of an excuse. Sorry. I'll try and do better next time. Newtown School, if you could take anyone to the World Cup final, who would it be and why? Would that I had tickets for the World Cup final, that would be lovely. It would be my daughter, because I am a season ticket holder at a rugby club, not that side, that side. And I go to the rugby with my daughter, and she's 11, and we have a nice time watching rugby together. Strawberry Fields Primary, I'm really sorry if I miss anyone out. Strawberry Fields Primary, is rugby your favourite sport? It is at the moment. It's always been football in my life, but recently I've got more into rugby. I don't know why. I don't know why. I just have, and I've changed a bit. So rugby is my favourite sport to watch. My favourite sport to do is fell running. North Durham Academy. Michael asks, hello Michael, is there a lot of pressure for me to get up at 6 a.m. and write the stories, or get the stories done by 6 a.m? Yes. I try and plan it, the story, during the day, so that I can just write it quite quickly in the evening. The biggest pressure is I give it to my wife to read at the end of every day, and she checks it and tries to edit it for me. She's really good. There'd be loads more errors if she didn't, and so that's quite a pressure, because I always have to make sure she's checked it, and that means that usually we do it later at night. Right, St James's Primary. If you have an idea and the vote goes against it, how do you feel? I quite like that. I quite like doing a vote where I don't know which way it's going to go. Obviously I'd be happy if it went one way, but if it goes the other way, I find that quite challenging and exciting, that I have to change everything, all my plans, and I will do that one more time, I think, in this story. Another question that I've not written down the school it's from, but I know I've got another question from that school. Why has nobody at Borderlands realised that the children are missing? So these three aren't at Borderlands school, and they should be. Because I'm writing children's fiction, I'm sort of pretending that there aren't any adults involved, and there are. Obviously their parents and their teachers would be looking out for them, but I've not really had time to explain why. So you just sort of have to pretend that's not happening. Sorry, that's a bit lame, isn't it? Right, next question. St James's, I've done you. Stamford Park Junior, have you watched all the games? No. What with going around and doing events in schools, and writing this story, and being a dad, which is and a husband, which is my main priority. Beyond anything, I've only watched 2 full games, and they weren't terribly enjoyable either. So you'll probably guess which ones they were. But I intend to watch more of the quarterfinals and semi-finals. But it's more important to spend time with my daughter and my wife than watching all the matches, is my opinion. But I watch highlights. You can watch highlights packages on ITV, so I watch those. Harcourt Primary, are you going to write another online story, and what is it about? Yes, I am. I'm going to write one for the European Championships next season, the football ones. The European Championships coincides with the 100th anniversary of the Battle of the Somme, the World War I Battle of the Somme, and I've written a World War I book called Over the Line, so I'm going to write a live story set at the European Championships, but also to do with commemorating 100 years since the Battle of the Somme, and I'm hopefully going to be in France while I'm writing it. I'm really excited about that. I've applied for some money to help me pay for it from the Arts Council, so hopefully that'll happen. And even if I don't get the money off them, don't tell them this, but I'll probably still do it anyway, even though I won't get paid for it, but it's worth doing because I want to do it. And when you're excited about doing something, you should do it. Lower school. If Rose sets another challenge and the boys pass, will she let the boys enjoy the Rugby World Cup? The last week of the Rugby World Cup, the value that they'll be defending is enjoyment. I'm going to see to it that after all their hard work, they enjoy something. I can't say much more. Joe, who sent a question in individually, are the characters based on anyone I know? Not really, not like friends or anything like that, more people. Woody is based on Clive Woodward. Rory, if you know much about him, is based on Johnny Wilkinson. I'm showing you Owen, sorry. Rory, I'm losing it now. Rory is based on Johnny Wilkinson, and Owen is based on, he's kind of sort of based on the author of a book called Calon, which is about Welsh rugby, which I love the book, not Welsh rugby at the moment, but it's a really good book, and Owen reads that book, and so it's kind of a tribute to Owen Shears, who wrote that book. Right, thank you, Joe. Ashford St Mary, who do you think will win the Rugby World Cup? I used to think it was definitely going to be New Zealand, but now I was really impressed with Australia amid the pain of England losing, but I thought, and Foley and people like that, I think they were really good, and I don't know who I'd like to see, but seeing Australia and New Zealand in the final would be pretty amazing, but also Wales, France, Ireland, in South Africa even. Right, Itchen Abbas Primary School. If you could write about a different sport, what would it be and why? I would write about fell running. Fell running is what I like to do. Fell running is running up and down hills in the Pennines or the Lake District or other places. And I am planning a story about a boy who comes from a country a long way away and gets into fell running in the north of England. And I'm going to write that next year. That's what I'd like to write about. Overdale Junior, why do you always leave a cliffhanger? I leave a cliffhanger at the end of each chapter because I'm terrified of boring you, of you not wanting to read the next chapter, and maybe I already am boring you, but I try to leave it so that you'll want to know what's going to happen next. Because writing something like this is not easy as writing a book, to be honest, because the book you can go check and change and everything, whereas with this you can't really go back and change it, so I leave powerful cliffhangers in to hope that you'll want to read it the next day, because the worst thing about being a writer, I think, is if someone got bored with one of your books, which is bound to happen, but hopefully not too much. Shenfield School. Do I know the whole story, or do I make it up as I go along? I plan it to an extent. Sorry, I'm just checking I've done this page. Yes, I have. So halfway through, we should be done in about 17 minutes, teachers. 17 minutes from the start, so another 7 minutes. Sorry, I've lost my thread. Do I know the whole story? I plan, in fact, just give me a minute. Sorry, that was right. Ungainly. I plan it, so this is the story for Wednesday. I won't show you too much of that. This is the story, the plan for Thursday, Friday, and so I plan each day, each week. I've been planning each week, but that is the plan for the last week, and it's basically that is the plan for week 5 so far, but I won't show you much more. So I do a bit of planning, but then I like to change it as you go along, and then events happen, and I don't know, if you plan too much, it's sort of, I like to plan, but I don't plan too much. So I've been doing it a week at a time and trying to respond to the events in the tournament a bit. Good question. Keys Meadow, what rugby team do you support? I keep doing the wrong side. I support this team. Can you see that? Yorkshire Carnegie. I've got a season ticket with my daughter at Yorkshire Carnegie, and that's who we support. And in rugby league, we support Leeds Rhinos, and I also support Leeds United as well in football. So I sort of have mixed experience. Danes Mill, do you have a long-term plan for the story, or do you decide each night? I'm sorry, I'm answering that. Again, I do decide each night, and the plan's been really good, but I've kind of structured it around the 5 values and not really planned too far ahead. Tried to make it 5 short stories within a greater story, which has made it easier for me, frankly. West Ashstead Primary. Why was Rose in the Australian hotel? Good question. There are some things with this story that I don't know yet that I need to resolve, and I've not planned that or worked it out, so I don't know why she was there, but it's certainly fishy, and you'll see why it's fishy later, but I don't actually know yet. Elwood Primary, what is the favourite book you've written? My favourite book I've written is Over the Line. This is about real footballers who fought in the First World War. So the leading England scorer, Jack Woodward, was one of those, and he's a character in this book, and it's my favourite because when you write about real people, you have to get very emotionally close to them, and I got very emotionally close to these characters in this book because they were real, to the extent that Sid Wheelhouse, one of the characters in here, I actually went to his grave, and that made me feel very much that I had to do a good job on the book, which is why I got so close to it. So that's my favourite. And if you're interested in this book, there's a website called readingwar.co.uk, and it has films of me talking in the places where I wrote the book, like battlefields in France and Sid Wheelhouse's grave, in fact. So that's why that's my favourite. So that's readingwar.co.uk, a little advert there. Hornsby House. Why is Mr. G getting so involved in trying to destroy rugby? That is another of the things I've not worked out. It's going to be something like he's got a bitterness against the game. Something may have happened in the past, but to be honest, I've not actually. This sounds terrible, I don't know. But then it's a surprise for me, it'll be a surprise for you. Hopefully. I hope that's alright. These are really good questions, all of you, thank you. Wyndham Park School, why do children in Rugby Academy have parents in the RAF? Right, so these boys have parents in the RAF. I wanted to write a story about rugby, but also about children who had parents in the forces, and I was working at a school near an RAF base, Albrighton Primary School near Cosford Air Base, and they talked to me about their lives as what it was like having a mum or a dad in the area, and that deeply affected me, and I wanted to try and explore that in stories as well as rugby. And also, actually, that came from the fact that Clive Woodward's dad was in the forces, and he went to a school where they played rugby. Good question. The Good Shepherd, is Rose based on someone I know? No. No, I don't know anyone like her. But no, she's just sort of made up as it went along, really. But she's turning a bit odd, as you'll discover if you've read today's chapter. I apologise for my Welsh pronunciation, but I will try with all the Welsh schools coming up. Ysgol I Garned. What is the best thing about being an author? Good question. The best thing about being an author is travelling. When I write my books, I've travelled to New Zealand, where this is set. I've travelled to Toulon in France, where this is set. I've travelled to Wrexham, where this is set, and I've slept in a football stadium in Wrexham to research it. I like going to interesting places to find things out. I want to go to St. Petersburg next year because I want to set up there. I love travelling, and when you go somewhere new and foreign, it gives you exciting new ideas, and all five senses are influenced in ways they've not been before, and that gives me more inspiration to write newer things, and it refreshes me and excites me. I love travelling, although it can be expensive. Rhys Murrig, which is my favourite character out of all the boys, and why? My favourite character up until this point is Rory, because he's more than he seems, but I don't want to give any more away because I have planned that bit. I like Rory. I liked him in his book as well. He's based on Johnny Wilkinson, who wouldn't like him, frankly. Anyway, Shakespeare Jr. Why is it the mascot that gets kidnapped? Good question. When I started writing this story, I'm writing it for the RFU, England Rugby, and it's going on the RFU's website, and I gave them a list of 20 scenarios about what I'd like to do in the story, and I said, are these okay? And obviously, as a national body for a sport in the UK, some of the scenarios like bombs, murder, etc., they didn't like, because it would not have been positive to associate them with the RFU, because especially while they're running a tournament, like if I blew up a stadium during the tournament, and then if that really did happen, it would be appalling. And so I've tended to steer towards safer storylines, which is why it's not ultra dramatic, and out of respect for the RFU, but also because they're paying me to do it. They're paying me to do the story, and we are in a contract where I have to do the right thing by them, and they are paying me to write the story. So I wasn't allowed to kidnap any players, but they did let me kidnap Ruckley, which was good. Not for Ruckley. Good question. There's one sheet left, teachers. I think will be another 5 minutes. I'm sorry this is going on longer than I thought, but I wanted to include every story. Dinglewell Jr. Is your life devoted to writing, or do you enjoy other things? I love writing, but my life is devoted to my family. That is what my life is devoted to. Writing helps me do that. Writing also makes me happy, and I have little hobbies like going to watch football and rugby and barrel running, and a huge hobby which you will see behind you, which is reading, because I love books, and that's some of them. And writing is my hobby as well. Ysgol Bryn Teg. Have you got any more information about Rose and Mr. G? Rose, things will happen with Rose this week. Nearly gave something away then. But this week things will happen with Rose. Mr. G is a complete mystery to me, and in fact, if you have some ideas about what Mr. G could be or do, and they're better than mine, I will use them, because I've yet to find a safe, interesting way of revealing Mr. G. But Mr. G will come, but I'm not sure what yet. to be honest with you. Vale School, how long does it take to write a dear me. How long does it, it's late. How long does it take to write a Rugby Academy book? These take about a month to write, to plan, to edit, to research. Researching this was amazing. I went to Toulon and I met Andrew Sheridan, the former England prop, yes, who showed me around Toulon, and I went to Toulon and found things out, and that took a few days. So they roughly take about a month to write, with a bit of help. Sorry about name dropping there. But he was a really good man, was Andrew Sheridan, and I thank him very much. Sunnyside Primary Academy, will you put in another goodie? Yes, there is a goodie about to come into the story. In fact, you may already have had a glimpse of her. And going back to what I was saying earlier, who is my favourite character in the story? It was Rory, but once this new character comes in, it will be her. St John's Primary, how did you come up with the characters? I suppose it was based on real people from biographies I read. Clive Woodward, Johnny Wilkinson, and Owen Shears, sort of, but not his actual person, but his name. Rose was, I don't know where she came from, strange one that. Crethiac School, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, in Cornwall, which I love. Do you find it hard to write under pressure writing every day? Yes, I do, but I kind of like the pressure, because when you're under pressure in a job, it's a bit like when you're under pressure in a sport. You get more adrenaline, and sometimes you do things better, in my opinion. So it gives me a bit of a buzz. Another question, which isn't from another school, which has had a question answered already. Are you going to publish the Twickenham Trials as a book? If so, will you change it? It won't be published as a book, because it's written live with so many cliffhangers. It's actually a bit mad as a story, and as a book I don't think it would work. I've done these before, and when you read them afterwards they just seem a bit too much to be published as a book, so I doubt it, unless there's a sudden clamour for it, but I doubt it, sorry. But it will be published on my website as one whole document. So my wife's going to put it together as a readable whole document for everyone to read if you ever want to again. My last school, there's 3 schools left. That was 3 fingers, by the way, sorry. What inspired me to write about sport? I wanted to be a writer once I started reading, and I knew that to get into writing I should write about what I'm passionate about, what I'm confident about writing about, and the only thing that I really felt that way about was sport at the time. But now I can write more broadly because I'm confident writing. I can explore other subjects better. 2 questions left. Weatherall's Primary, why did you base the story on 3 boys and not girls? Good question. Because I wanted to base it on these 3 characters in these 3 books, and frankly I wanted to do that because I wanted people to enjoy the story, and then I wanted them to go and buy or borrow these books, and so it was kind of a way of promoting my new books, to be completely honest with you. However, Rose is a female character, and there will be a new female character for the last 6 or 7 chapters. But on reflection, and as in some of my other books, stronger female characters who are not ambiguous, so you can't tell whether they're good or bad, would have been a better idea. And I would probably, if this was a book, I would have gone back and rewritten it with 1 or 2 girl characters in it equal to the main boy characters. I think that's a mistake I've made, but it's too late to rectify it, so I'm sorry. But I'll remember that. Mayes Ear Howl Primary, which I probably butchered terribly. How do you come up with the storyline? It was fortunate. I decided to write the storyline around the 5 England rugby core values, and that really helped give it a structure. Then the rest of it is kind of classic anxiety storylines like kidnap, attempted murder, chase, mystery, is someone good or bad, those sorts of things. All those sort of basic storylines that are in a lot of stories, really. Anyway, that's we're just over 25 minutes. I'm really sorry, teachers, for going on longer than I said I would. I hope that's been useful. And if I've missed your school out, I do apologise. I'm doing this at 9:30 at night, and I've used all the schools that have been in touch so far. But thank you very much for engaging with this story. I really appreciate it, and all those questions were brilliant. Enjoy the rest of it, and do pass on any comments to me, especially if you can have any ideas about Mr. G. That would be handy, because I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen about that, but we'll work something out. Anyway, thank you very much, and thank you, teachers, for taking the time to read this with the children as well, and enjoy the rest of the World Cup. Goodbye.